Yeah, I live by the rule: if you're not early, you're late. And so I set it for like 30 minutes ahead. I'm sitting in my hammock right now. Okay. Um, Hold on a second. Let me put this out. So, the title of the video is, or of this live stream is understanding the homeless nomad community. Okay, as someone who's been chronically homeless for 25 years and been a part of the nomad community for as long as I could remember. I mean, even before I became homeless, I was kind of a nomad. There are certain things that set you apart, and there's a certain code of conduct, a certain code of rules in which you go by as a nomad. And I'm going to be talking about that, but there is somewhat of a motive. Hey, what's up there, seeker? There is somewhat of a motive behind this. So this morning, after my live stream, I had to go into a meeting with homeless entrepreneur because we're doing the coordination for the Great Walk from Philadelphia to New Jersey for the World Cup. And being a part of that, one of the sponsors that he has, we had to go into a meeting and so on and so forth. I got to be a part of it and maybe even add some value if I could. And one of the things I understand, because I mean, we're only walking maybe 120 miles tops, is what this overall walk is. It's gonna take 5 or 6 days, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do this, right? But the thing is, what it seems like everybody seems to have complication with is nobody's really done travel the way a nomad does travel. And as part of my responsibility that I've already been asked to do is to kind of help with planning the route. Part of the reason why I'm planning the route is because I know the trails, I know where to walk, I know a lot of this stuff. And we were talking about some of the changes that are happening in the states because of the what's it called? Because of the Grants Pass case. Okay, so a lot has changed since then, and the police, depending upon what municipality, what the politics are in the area, your life may have just gotten more difficult. And this doesn't just affect the crisis homeless or the home bum. What it does is it directly affects everybody housed and unhoused. That's what most people don't understand about the Grants Pass case. In the Grants Pass case, it doesn't. Even though it's technically targeting the homeless in order to avoid a violation of the Eighth Amendment, they had to do a blanket statement that goes after everybody. That includes hikers, bikers, people that are just stealth camping. Anything that you do, if you're violating an ordinance, there is no more protection like what you had previously out of the Boise case in I think it was 2011. Okay, so there's been a lot of changes in the laws and how people are able to travel. Even being a specific group, apparently, like New York is cracking down on permits and stuff like that because they don't want people sleeping outside. They don't want people sleeping in the city, so on and so forth. And as part of doing this great walk, some people may end up getting lodging, but for the majority of people that will go along with the Great Walk, they're going to be sleeping outside. And I anticipate myself sleeping outside as long as the weather's good. I won't want to go inside. I'll just want a place where I can pitch my hammock and I'll hang out with everybody else, just because that's who I am and that's what I do. Okay, so I was asked to, if I could reference any specific video to be able to send it so that these guys would have an understanding of kind of like logistics, what it's like to travel and to do this, so that as they're planning, not as we're planning the route, as we're planning the support and the logistics that's going to be needed for all of this. Um, there's a lack of understanding for what it's like on the ground. Okay, and that's really why I wanted to talk about this today. So if you've been following me, I'm doing a walk from Kansas City to Washington D.C. I have dubbed it the Policy to Pavement in conjunction with the Great Walk, so we're calling it the Policy to Pavement Great Walk. Okay, because I'm starting to get groups that are coming around me that I can collaborate with that will not only give me exposure but help me accomplish my goals as well. which is to sit in front of educators, policymakers, and the movers and shakers, so that we can actually have a full understanding of the nuances within homelessness, because they're trying to do a blanket statement for everybody when there's pretty much four main categories, which you've been hearing me talk about a lot lately. One of those categories is the crisis community. Then you've got the working homeless, and then you've got the van life, car camping homeless, and some of those are even working homeless as well. Because sometimes you can cross pollinate into multiple communities, and then you've also got the nomadic community, and I'm part of the nomadic community. So unfortunately, I believe that no matter what we do, lawfare will continue to lean towards internment, because they don't like people that they don't or can't control. It's not about control, it's about money. It's a pay to play system, and you're not welcome if you can't pay. And that's really what it means to be homeless. And that's the real reason why you're being ostracized and dehumanized by society as a whole, is because they themselves, see us as a burden on the system, because they are being convinced, even though it's not true, they're being convinced that these are lazy bums who will never amount to anything, so on and so forth. And that's not really the truth. So in the nomadic community, it lives by a different code than, let's say, the home bum community, or the working homeless community, because everybody has their expectations, their code of conduct. Whereas in the crisis community, calling the cops would not be a good idea. And even within the nomad community, the same thing. Whereas if you're part of the working homeless, that may not be a deterrent for you, because in your community, you're not penalized for it. Okay. So the easiest way for me to kind of help you guys understand how I became a nomad over time is to kind of give you a little bit of my history. Growing up, my mom was not very stable. The men that she married were not stable. And up until I was in fourth grade, I averaged two schools a year, which means we moved about every 3 to 6 months, depending upon what's going on. And in that 3 to 6 months, I just kind of got used to it. When my old man got custody of me being in the military, it was really weird to stay in a place for 1 to 2 years. Most people, when you tell them you moved around a lot, they're like, "Oh, it's the military." I'm like, "No, the military. Like, you move every 2 to 4 years. You don't move that much. Yeah, if you're used to being static in a community, or if that's what you're being portrayed, that's much different. But when you move every 3 to 6 months, you kind of develop a habit, whether you realize it or not. And even as I became an adult, because as a kid, I hit probably about four different states. Was it Washington, Colorado, Oregon, Texas, and California? So 5 states. And I moved all around all of those different states in my youth. Okay, and even as an adult, when I first became homeless, I tried to do the whole home bum thing. But what most people don't realize is that in Oregon, one of the big things that nobody realizes is that in the 80s, we had the 80s, or it was the 80s, we had the spotted owl debacle. So Oregon's primary export up until that point in time was timber. And they started changing rules to protect an endangered species. It basically eliminated 80% of the industry in Oregon, and plus almost all of the small towns collapsed, because that was their sole income. In a lot of ways, you have these small towns out here in the Midwest that are tied to the farms. If the farms went away, the cities themselves would collapse. And that's what happened to Oregon in our timber industry. So Oregon, next to maybe a couple other states, has always had the worst employment rate possible. So my first incentive was like, okay, I need to leave this state, because I need to go somewhere else and find opportunity. And I would go to different places. I would look for opportunities. I would look for different things to do. And what I always found out is that, like, for me, when I go to work, when I get a job, is I like to go out and I like to enjoy the town. And if you could go out and do everything in a town, like you can do everything in Portland, Oregon in less than 90 days, even if you really like tried to cast a wide net, I mean, you could get everything done in like 30 days. There's not a lot to do in Portland. So if you're wanting to have an active lifestyle, Portland wasn't the place. So what ended up happening is over time, because I was so used to moving, is that I started going from city to city and place to place for its tourism, for its city life, for its culture. And it wasn't until I went to San Francisco in like 2004, 2005 that I actually decided to settle down, because that's one of those cities that you could be in and you could spend three lifetimes there and still never do everything. And that was paradise for me. But economics go up, economics go down, and when the great financial crisis hit, it hit the Silicon Valley in the summer of 2007, hit the rest of the country in the winter of 2008. And so because of that, it forced me to move, and I've always just kept moving on a natural, as part of my natural personality trait. And everywhere I stay, I just, because it's become such an ingrained habit, it becomes very hard for me to stay in places more than 2 to 6 months, because I think of it from the point of view of like, I'm bored, I'm stagnant, the things aren't moving. And the thing is there's never really much. There are better opportunities depending upon like what your skill set is, your trades are, what your mindset is, what your desires are. There are better places, but in a lot of ways, there's not really much more opportunity in one place than another, unless it's industry specific. That's one primary thing to consider. So within the nomad community, you have your rubber tramps, which is what I did. I've got somewhere around 50,000 miles on Greyhound. Just between, my average trip on Greyhound was probably 3 to 5 days, because I was going from one side of the country to the other. I go from Oregon to Florida, from Florida to California, from California to somewhere else. And so I would always, just go cross country, and I get to see it. Now, you've also got people that, like me now, that walk trails. The Appalachian Trail is widely known for a homeless community there, because they go up and down the trail. They're constantly moving. They don't stay very long. And they themselves, whether they realize it or not, are part of the nomadic community. And once word starts getting around that you can walk all the way down to Florida, and that there's a trail that will get you all the way down to Florida, some nomads that are stuck on the AT start venturing out. And I've met a few of them along my route, in whether it be in on the Alabama Road Walk or the Pinhoti. Okay, you've also got hitchhikers. Hitchhikers like to travel from town to town, place to place, see what it's got to do. There is a certain aspect of the desire to travel. And then you've also got your train riders, which is probably the most famous of all of the nomadic communities, because they have a rich history going back to the origin of the Transcontinental Railroad. Because even during the Depression or post-Civil War, this is how people would travel, because it was the best form of transportation. It would be like having a car today, but back then all they had was rails. And then, you've got all these different groups that go within the nomadic community, but the things that they embody that is normal for them is that they are on a constant move. They don't stay anywhere more than a few weeks to maybe a couple of months, and then they're on their way. They don't stay static. They don't stay in one place too long. Now, there are some safety reasons why you do that, because if you're constantly on the move, that means trouble isn't going to follow you, because it just doesn't follow you. Because there's a widely known, I guess you could call it a cliche, that you can run from your problems, but your problems eventually catch up. And so, like, some people are just running from their problems. Some people just like to travel. Some people, like me, I just don't like being idle. Being in a city, I feel that I lose more time, more productive time, and it would be more productive for me to go from place to place than it would be to spend 2 hours waiting for a shower, 2 hours in different food lines, another hour here. By the end of the day, you lose most of your day. And that becomes an issue to begin with as well. Okay, so some of the code that goes by that is in the nomadic community depends upon which way you travel. Like train riders, they are the slobs of the nomadic community. That's just the truth. It's no dig at them. It's just I've been around train riders, and when they go into an area, they don't care. They're not going to be there that long. They probably will never return to the place. So leaving a mess isn't something that they think. Now, in the trail community, the and other communities, you're more worried about your trash and leaving a footprint. The cleanest community in the nomad community um, would be would be the hiking community, like myself, because you were taught to leave no trace. You're taught to leave zero impact. When I left my stealth camping spot, you couldn't even tell that I was there. I made sure to pick up all my trash. I didn't even clean the ground off. I just because I didn't want to even leave an imprint of that I was actually there. Because the thing is when you are traveling, a lot of the times, unless you're on a nature trail, there is no place to really sleep. You are sleeping in hiding in the fly at all times. Okay, that's just the way it is. So when you got a stealth camp, when you leave no trace, and because you're moving the next day or the day after that, you don't let people know that you've been there. That's why most people don't know about the nomadic community, or at least certain parts of the nomadic community, is because we don't leave evidence that we've been behind or that we've been there. You also have to do a lot of duck and dodging of cops because, like when I was walking through Kansas City, I got tracked by two different cops as I was walking through town because I don't know if I stood. Well, I probably did stand out with my bag and my dog and everything else like that. But I actually, you will get tracked through towns, especially when you go through small towns and and go through counties. The cops will just keep an eye on you because the second they see you stop, that is probable cause for them to come in and harass you and figure out why you're there and get you out of their town as quickly as possible. And so therefore you are constantly looking over your shoulder, keeping your head on a swivel, and trying not to get messed with along your way. So in the same way that we're going to be doing this great walk, we're going to have to take a lot of these different these different codes or yeah, codes of conduct, and we're going to have to apply live by them because right now, if you call up a local police department, they will tell you you cannot stay in their municipality. They will tell you about state land and other land that you can go stay on, not because they're trying to help you, but because you will no longer be their problem. Because if you're on state land, that is a ranger. Or if you're out of the municipality, that's the county. So therefore, you're not their problem, and they will generally give you a decent place to go as long as you don't stay in their municipality. So when you're walking 100 miles, especially you're walking up the East Coast from Philadelphia to New York, probably one of the densest corridors in America, you're going to have a lot of problems trying to find places to stay that you're not going to get messed with. And the larger the group that you travel with, the harder it is for you to stay incognito, because your whole goal when you are traveling is to remain incognito. You guys wouldn't know I was out here. Nobody would even know about me if I didn't have a YouTube channel for this particular reason. Okay. So when it comes to these different things, you've got to take into consideration, how do you want to live your lifestyle as a nomad? Now, what are the reasons in which people become nomads? Some of it is like my childhood. I moved around, so it was normal for me. It felt more comfortable as an adult, and I just kept moving. For others, they may be outrunning problems. For others, they just might just like to travel. They've never really been nomadic, grew up in the same community, but they just like to move around because they want to see all different parts of this country. And although a lot of people look at the homeless community and go, oh, well, yeah, you're just a derelict bum, I don't see why I should help you. You got to understand that when you are traveling the way I do, Your currency is your stories. So you guys hear me talk about my stories all the time. You guys get to hear story and story and story from me, from all the different things I've done that pertain to your interest. See, that is your true currency when you're out, because I could stop and post up at a Dollar General, go in, resupply. People will stop, say hi, see how you're doing. With Sam, it causes them to come want to pay attention to the dog, and then they start asking you questions, and you start giving them stories and start telling them, oh yeah, I've been here, I've done this. And then they get fascinated, because a lot of these people, they spent their whole life working. They never actually took a time for their own self-fulfillment. Because when you choose the lifestyle of being a nomad, you are giving up riches in exchange for experience. You get a choice, just like you get a choice, either you go to heaven or hell if you're a Christian. In that same way, when you become a nomad, you're choosing to give up riches in exchange for experiences. And the average person that you're coming in contact with chose to give up experience in exchange for riches. And so for them, when they get to listen to your stories, it gives them some sort of fulfillment, so that they can not feel bad about the fact that they're not, because most people look at what I do and go, oh man, I wish I could do what you do. I would love to go do what you do. And I'm going to tell you, the average person, you wouldn't like it, you wouldn't survive it, and you probably wouldn't last a month. Okay, I definitely would say that. Okay, so you're giving up your riches for experience, but then that experience becomes your currency. So did you really give up your riches, or did you figure out a different way to generate money and income and other things? And see, people will go and pay for a movie because they want to be entertained. People will go to an amusement park because they want to be entertained. So you, as a traveler, because of your stories of your travels, you are in the same boat as someone going to a movie, or as someone that is going to an amusement park, because you're providing them entertainment. The entertainment is sharing your good experiences, because you're not going to sit there and talk about the predator you met here, and the time you had a gun or a knife pulled on you here, or the time the cops really did some crappy shit to you there. You're not going to talk about that. You're going to talk about, from my experience, I talk about Bradford Bay on the Florida Trail, or I talk about my experience in San Francisco, or I talk about all the different places that I've been, and all the cool stories that I have, and all the interesting people that I've met along the way, such as Rothschilds, such as like some of the movers and shakers of the underground. I've got to meet them in my travels. And when you're a traveler, and especially if you're not dealing with an addiction, or a severe mental health issue where you're in crisis mode, you generally don't talk to the front line, like the guys that are, walking the corner. You talk to the guy that's giving all those guys work. And by getting those associations, it creates a whole new safety net for you. Because in your travels, everybody's always fascinated, even gang members and drug dealers, and the common, dude on the street. Everybody wants to hear your stories. And so therefore your stories, again, become currency. And so as you go by, you don't really think of the story you're getting, unless somebody says something like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to go here. Oh yeah, I've been here, 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 and here. And then they're like, ooh, what was this like? And then you're like, oh well, let me tell you this story. Okay, so it's kind of like, you got an iPhone, you've got a Samsung, you've got a Google Pixel. You got different versions of cell phones, and you're just sitting there showing them, which cell phone would you like? Would you like an Android? Would you like an iPhone? Would you like something else? Okay, so therefore your stories and what it is that you've been through all of a sudden becomes your currency. Okay, now there is a certain code of conduct as well. Like I said, clean up after yourself. Don't be a slob. Also, because you're trying not to get hemmed up in a city, you're going to avoid confrontation, conflict. You're going to avoid areas where you're going to be, under the microscope. So you're going to stay away from places like Homeless Row and stuff like that. So you guys always hear me talk about, I don't go sleep around the homeless, not unless it's absolutely advantageous to me for my own safety. I generally go sleep everywhere where the homeless don't, because as a nomad, the last thing I want to do is get hemmed up in a sweep. And so therefore I stay away from the homeless community. I do go in there and visit with them and interact with them on an as needed basis, whether I need to, because I'm not in a weed legal state, which means that I got to go get some on a corner, or things like that. So there are different reasons why you want to go into the homeless community, even if it means hold on, I gotta get my charger. Even if it means um, you've got to go interact with people you'd probably prefer to stay away from. The nomadic community generally doesn't hang out with the home bums, or the crisis community. Even train riders generally don't hang out with them. They may hang out on the outskirts at best, but they generally keep to themselves because the home bums and the crisis community have burned out a lot of the areas where you could go make money. So you got to go into the outskirts. You got to go figure out other ways to make money. For example, in one city, I use Craigslist. In another cities, I've knocked doors. In other cities, I've flown signs. There's all different ways in which you can raise money. And the only purpose for you to go into a city and stay for any point in time is just for resupply, because you are at your best and you are at peace when you're on the road. You're being static becomes uncomfortable. It becomes to a point where you don't really want to. It's hard to deal with. Even today, taking a 0 day it was very hard, but I also had a productive day. I had a morning live stream. I had an evening live stream. I went to a meeting with homeless entrepreneur and the sponsor for the great walk that he's doing. I got to sit back and catch up on a show that I really like. I don't know if you guys get Netflix, but I've been into this series. They just put the second season out. It's called Night Action. You should definitely check it out. It's a really good series. Okay, so this is the general idea of what it means to be a nomad. I'm gonna open it up for you guys to ask questions, so that you guys can can get a deeper expansion. I'm going to go through and start reading what we've got here. It looks like we got a lot of stuff here. Just so you guys know, I always get my topic out, and I don't pay attention to chat, so that when I first start out, because people don't like it that I get distracted by comments. So let's go through the comments now. So unfortunately, I believe that no matter what we do, yes. Okay, we still gotta try though. Israel, I don't care. That's what I mean by control money. If they can't keep us making them money, they will find a way to make money off of us. Internment camps make them money. Um, I don't know. Well, you know what? I was warned a couple years ago that that's what's going to end up happening, is that the people are going to get so fed up with homelessness, they're going to start putting us in internment camps. And then that's just basically, we are Nazi Germany at that point in time. So, talking about America, William, Israel, and Palestine has no dog in this fight. Yes, exactly. Nut milk or soy milk. Found Duloc, Wisconsin, back in 20, almost collapsed because of mercury outboard motors. I went to sell the company to Stillwater. The people who worked there said no, they voted no, we're still here. Huh. I haven't been on a Greyhound since I got out of the military a quarter of a century ago. That's when I first started riding Greyhound, and I'm telling you, it's gone downhill. Greyhound sucks. They've cut down. Actually, Greyhound was bought by Flixbus about 3 years ago. When I first got on the Florida Trail, that's when Flixbus had just finally taken over. And what they've done is they combined their routes. And but the thing is, they're only hitting major cities, major trade routes. You can't go to anywhere in America like you used to 50 years ago. Ginger Bigfoot, that's funny. I prefer lawn gnome. Plus, you don't stay longer than a few days in a single camp. It's harder to be spotted and harassed by police or other people. Yes, because your main goal is to be left alone. You don't want to be bothered by anybody, including the police. And so, like, you guys... I know some of you are like, why don't you just stealth camp? Because I know that there's a ranger that patrols this area, and I don't want to deal with a ranger. I would rather figure out another way than to deal with the ranger, because if he wants to be a dick, he's going to take me to jail. If he's going to be nice, he's going to tell me to put down my camper, be gone in the morning, and if he sees me there the next day, then that's that. But it just depends upon the attitude of the individual. And again, if he thinks that you're homeless, he's going to be mean to you, and be a complete dick. And that's why we've got to change the stigma on homelessness, so that guys like myself, when we're in that pinch and a ranger comes by, you just tell them, look, I'm a nomad. I'm just traveling through. I'll be gone tomorrow. They'll be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I know about you guys. Yeah, just be gone. If you leave a mess, they might take down your information and charge you with you afterwards, whatever. Okay. So, right. Yeah. You can't even see where fires were when I leave camp. Yep. Smile your way through the day. You're very smart, dude. For real, for real. Thanks, Adam. Wait, what's up, Taylor? You still peeing in the shower? Another tip when walking: stash your backpack under a brush pile and a bunch of dead leaves in the woods a couple of miles out of any towns you resupply in. Yeah, well, that works if you like to backtrack. I don't. I'm always moving forward. I don't backtrack. Because like I will get to a point and I'm like, oh, well, here's a good spot, and I won't want to backtrack. And so I just keep my bag with me at all times. Okay, what's up, Bear Nurse? The ruck is the dead giveaway and attracts lots of attention. Stash it, go into town, get supplies. No, well, it depends upon what you want. The reason why I have an Osprey bag is so that I can blend in with the hiker community. So when people see Osprey, they're not thinking homeless, because it's a $350 bag. That ain't a cheap bag. Like my Teton would have been a dead giveaway, but this, no. This gives me the ability to blend in, so I don't have to deal with as much of the discrimination. Yes. I want to be a homeless nomad. Well, Eric, ask away. Eric, aren't you already? Okay, yeah. Oh, funny. I got a new bicycle today. Good. Thought so. I think I watched your channel before. Oh, okay. Yeah, I thumbed up for Tuck. Okay, Tuck, if Eric is who I think he is, he may be able to give some good pointers. Well, yeah, if you got things to say, we're always willing to listen, because this is a community effort. The people that are here are either homeless, like myself, or they have a sympathy and understanding for the homeless community. So to be able to offer your 2 cents from your experience is always welcome here, because this is our community. Tuck, if Eric, okay, be wary of others when traveling. Regardless, some other homeless will try to kill you. You know what? Yeah, that's something I forgot to. That's why I mentioned the predators, because at least once a year I come across one. The one in Chattanooga wanted to put his finger up my butt, and the guy in Shreveport wanted me to get naked and frolic with him through the forest while he played with my hair. So. They'll pretend to be your friend and lace your weed when you know what? I've heard a lot of people say that. I've never had that problem. But the thing is if you're just going through town and you're not staying very long, like more than a week, they don't get enough time to be able to put a grudge on you unless you're a snitch. Once you start snitching, yeah, everything goes against you. But if you're not even, like, even when I was in Cincinnati, I had to go into Homeless Row, but nobody knew where I was or anything else about me. And like, I would go in for they recognized me by face, but they didn't know who I was. They just knew I was one of them because I kept coming back in, and because my weed guy was always selling me weed. And they're like, oh yeah, that's the kid. He always comes and get weed. But nobody knows who I am, so they can't do any of that stuff. The only people because I know of people that have had their weed laced with fentanyl and other drugs. And I will tell you that a lot of it is because you have crossed somebody, and that's an assassination attempt, and it's generally targeted. Because I've asked the dope dealers that I know, and I'm like, hey, I keep hearing this is an epidemic. Is this something I need to be worried about? He's like, no, that person, if that's happening to him, there's a reason it's happening to him. It's not just because, something random. No, I usually go to the gang members, because it's a business to them. Bus was a trip. Okay, you're living in the dream life on your own terms. I'm not necessarily on my own terms because I'm still subject to the laws thereof. So this ain't my terms. This is the rules of engagement that they gave me. Okay, so but that's that. As things go along. All right. So does anybody have any questions about what it's like in the nomadic lifestyle? Does anybody think I've left anything out? Because this is going to be going to houses, and these houses have never experienced the nomad life the way we have. Now, homeless entrepreneur, he spent 10 years traveling on backpack building, or no, I think he spent a year or two traveling on backpack, building the homeless entrepreneur. Okay, but he went in building it with a mission, the same way I went into building this channel with a mission. He is the only one out of that whole group. Me and him are the only ones that have the ability to understand what it's like. But there also comes a time when, like he's mostly done it in Europe, and Europe has signed on to the universal human rights. The United States hasn't. The United States puts all of these things on Europe and the rest of the world, but never abides by them themselves. I believe even the Geneva Convention is not even signed by the United States. It may be signed, but the treaty was never ratified. It takes forever to ratify any of these treaties. It took 25 years for the first climate change treaty to be ratified from 1960, when Global 2000 was originally written, to like 1976 or 77 when it was officially ratified. Okay, so policies like this don't get adopted overnight. It's not something quick. Um, so, but it's my suggestion is, if you're gonna meet a nomad, and if you're like, dude, if you get to know somebody and they're like, yeah, I'm a traveler, I do this, I do that, you let them tell you stories. If you got time, I mean, you're gonna go sit and spend an hour and a half at a movie and spend what, 50, $60, for you and a date. Or you could spend $5 or $10 and get the same amount of entertainment and get it from a real person that you can interact and ask questions from. And you walk away going, wow, I think I want to do that. Because when you walk away from a movie, you're like, man, that was a good movie. You don't walk away going, man, I would like to do that. Okay, so everybody has their own value that they bring. For the crisis community, they give people the value that they bring to people is that they by the sympathy that's offered to them, it allows people to feel good about themselves, that they're doing something productive to help their community. Even regardless of whether they actually are or aren't, it's the mindset, it's the reason behind it. And there are people out there like, I'm never going to give to a homeless person. That's fine. Be their friend. We don't. Money's like third priority. First priority is friends, because friends are connections. Friends are safety nets. Second thing would be I don't know. The second thing would be resources, and then the third thing would be what do we call it? Would be money. Okay, so on all of that, money is usually the third on the list. If you're in crisis mode, or you're in deep in an addiction, money is your primary. Is your primary objective, because that's what's going to fuel your addiction. The dope dealer doesn't take promises or stories. He takes cash and cash only. Okay, so that's just the way it works. But here, guys, I'm gonna have a cigarette while we're doing this. Um, but anyways, that's just generally what it is. But it's been a pretty light 0 day for me. Tomorrow's going to be hell, because we've got to get into camp before 4 o'clock when it's going to start raining. It'll probably start raining before then, so I need to get my gear set up for rain, so that when it does happen, all I got to do is set my bag down, pull out my coat, put it on, put my bag back on, and keep running. Sam's going to be the one that gets wet, and then I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with her. Because that's another thing you have to deal with out here. You got to think about the elements. If it's raining and you got a breeze, that could be semi-fatal. If it's super cold and you've got a cold spell and you ain't got the right gear, or it's an extreme cold spell that you can't really prepare for, that's something else you got to worry about. My number, I watch Ryan Hall, y'all, religiously because I need to know the weather patterns that I'm walking into, because that's what's going to tell me whether or not I have the ability to it tells me whether or not I have the ability to function, or if I should hunker down for a few days. Because it's going to rain for several days, I may end up staying in Windsor for 3 or 4 days, because my rule is I don't walk at night and I don't walk in the rain. I'd rather set up a tarp, keep me and my dog dry, and stay safe, warm, and healthy, than to get on the road and be like, I just need to go. Because like, I've been doing this long enough. Like, when you first start out, you're probably gonna always be on the go. But after time, you get comfortable. You understand the landscape. You understand what you can do, what you can't do, all those different things. You start taking risks that you would have normally not taken in the beginning. So as I've been doing this for almost 25 years, or well, I've been chronically homeless for 25 years. So yeah, that whole time, even when I was housed, I was nomadic. So don't give to the homeless. Ask them to rake your leaves and earn it. Then some will do it. Just don't let them in your house. Better safe than sorry. Um, no, because you, again, seeker, you're giving a blanket statement. I disagree with you. Yeah, a person will feel more dignified being given, being compensated for a good day's work. But there's a lot of them, and the reason why they turn it down is because they can make more money panhandling than they can in an hourly wage job, low skill, no skill. You can make $7 an hour, and these guys are making 20, $30 an hour. When I fly my too ugly to prostitute sign, my best hour was like $50 or $100, and my worst hour was like $15. Um, yeah, so Hall is pretty good. Okay. New here, just wondering how you stay safe from wild animals. Do you have a set of things you have on you in case? Um, Virgo, I'm not worried about the animals. They generally stay away from you. And from what a friend told me, because he had to deal with coyotes one night, I've never had to deal with that. Well, actually, no. There was one time on the Florida Trail, one of the gators was getting kind of wild, and I was ground sleeping. It kind of made me nervous. But like a gator, if you're loud, they'll go away. Coyotes and bears and stuff like that, if you build a fire, that's a deterrent, an instinctual deterrent for them, because it's danger, because they know that they can become food. So like building a fire, that's what my friend told me. Like, as soon as he built the fire and started, the coyotes went away, but they were surrounding him, and he was trying to fend them off as he was quickly trying to build a fire. So there are some instances when you may have to do that, but I've never experienced it myself yet. Now, the scariest thing that I've ever been told about that I was going to encounter is mountain lions, because those things are vicious. I'm scared of mountain lions because, yeah, a cat likes to play with its food, and that means your death is going to be long and hard. Okay, so but yeah, if you're new here, Virgo lady, this is part of something bigger. It's called the Pavement to Policy Great Walk. I'm doing it in conjunction with Homeless Entrepreneur. We're doing two separate walks that we're combining, to bring awareness to homelessness and to educate people that there's more to homelessness than just the cracked out junkie on a street corner in his own piss and shit. Okay, there's more to it than that. And here's something else. A lot of people will be like, dude, you can't be mean to people like that. It's like, dude, you got to realize homeless people are not nice to each other. We are meaner to each other than you could ever be, because we know the deep, dark secrets that we all live with. A homeless person can be way meaner than a housey. Get a job, bum. Oh, well, if you get up off of one of your jobs, I might be able to get one. But that's just the way it is. Thank you for answering. Liked and subscribed. Thank you. Hey, are you from the U.S.? Yes. Born and raised. So, yeah, and this is everybody keeps talking about how they want to leave this country and go somewhere else. Like, I was born here. I was raised here. I'm not leaving it. I'll go down with the ship. I have no intent or desire to jump ship. I think that people that do that are kind of weak, and they're fair weather fans, and they're probably the reason why this country failed, because they weren't fully invested. When you're fully invested in this country, you start taking a deeper look at what's going on. Okay, so you live in Britain. Okay, good. Mm, mm. But that's just wow. Man, I can talk, can I? You guys get me going, but you guys also have a lot of comments and stuff like that I've also been catching up on. Okay, so if you guys want to support me through what I'm doing, there's multiple ways in which you can help. Some will be money, some won't. What I really need is I need people who have connections to educators and policymakers, politicians, and the like in Jefferson City. I'll be in Jefferson City hopefully by the end of next week. And as long as that goes through without a hitch, everything should be good. But I need to get in front of, I need to sit down and talk to policymakers, because we could talk about homelessness all we want. We could educate people on homelessness all we want. But if we don't start changing policies to recognize and understand the multifaceted, understand the difference, the different communities within the homeless community. For example, if let's say $150,000 could help 150 people. That's $10,000 per year per person. These are functional homeless. These are people that are either trying to start a business from the streets, or they're the working poor, or they are trying to get a job and move up within their job, within their work. And so you get access to, instead of getting money, you get access to mentors and to other people that will help you become better at what it is you want to do. And he spends his whole day, helping people do that. So for at $10,000 a year per person, you could very easily support 150 people, versus the California numbers. If you want to go extreme, the California numbers are that would only help 2 people. The rest of the country's numbers, that would help 3 people. Okay, in crisis mode. So just so that you can understand the cost difference between helping the functional homeless who have a better chance of getting off the streets, that or at least having a better lifestyle. Like for me, all I really need is opportunities for work when I go into towns. And so being able to have networks to be able to get work, like to go, I don't care if I'm raking leaves or if I'm doing grunt labor in a warehouse. I'm going to come work for you for 3 or 4 days, make a couple $100, and then be on my way, because that's going to be what gets me there. So do I need housing? No. What I need is access to temporary labor, and there should be, if there was incentive to hire to hire a homeless person for 2 or 3 days, then to whatever tax breaks or whatever, that right there takes the drain off of the system. The other thing that I need is food stamps, because food stamps at least make sure that you can make it. When you go through some of these small towns, they price gouge you on food. Like $6 for a can of $2 chili is a little crazy, but it's convenience, and there's no town for 20 miles in any direction. So good luck. If you need food, you're gonna pay an exorbitant price. And that's kind of where food stamps come in, because food stamps make it much easier, because when you have cash, it's much harder to come up off of cash for $6 or for $6 for a $2 can of chili. It's much harder than it is if you got food stamps. Don't know why, it just is. Okay. What's up, John Picard? God bless. Thank you, William. Okay. Was homeless for 20 years. Finally got a place. I'm 74 now. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. He used to, I think he was out of Oregon. Very, very cool guy. He'd been homeless for like 50 years. Your speech is very intelligent, sir. Thank you. Yeah, but see, the thing is we're not all dumb idiots that got mush brain. There are very intelligent people out here. Slack and Fishbone are very intelligent. They're train riders. You wouldn't know it unless you sat back and talked to them. There's a lot of intelligent people out here. But the thing is all anybody knows is what they see on the street corner. They don't realize that the community is much bigger. What they're seeing is the people that are unable to take care of themselves, to where they need crisis management, case management, and the like. And they should get the help that they need. Okay. But when you've got somebody that's going to be in continuous crisis, versus helping 50 people get out of crisis. There's a I don't know, what do you call it, like a maxim, sacrifice the one for the many, or sacrifice the few for the majority. Okay, so there already is like an ideological policy in place to where it would make sense to fund, programs that are helping the functional homeless, because you can get more with less than you could by funding the programs that are helping with crisis homelessness. These people will need help, because if they don't get the help that they need, the crisis community, if they don't get the help that they need, then it's going to be much uglier than what it is right now, because they have no qualms. They got nothing left to lose. They just don't give a shit. So yeah, on one way, it keeps society safe by helping them in some ways, by giving them some assistance. But on the same sense, you've got to also look at everybody that's being affected, and they're only taking care of 20 to 25% of the whole homeless community, thinking that they're taking care of the whole homeless community, not realizing that there's different factions out there within the homeless community. Exactly. Most of us somewhat intelligent people are smart enough to stay out of trouble and stay out of any spotlights. Yeah, it takes a little bit of reason. You got to have something to live for. I mean, my dog is what I live for. My subscribers is what I live for. I look forward to seeing you guys every single day that I do a live stream. That's why I'm on here for almost an hour, because I can only talk for maybe 10 minutes on my own without inspiration from you guys. Okay, and like, you got to have something to live for, to have a reason. Even anybody who's seen me with Sam knows that my decision-making process has changed a lot with Sam, because whenever I make a decision, I have to consider Sam, how it's going to affect her, and all those different things. And for those of you guys that want to see Sam, I'll give you a quick look. See, there's Sam the dog. Hi, Sam. You want to come say hi? Everybody wants to say hi to Sam the dog. The feral princess. Hi, baby girl. Oh, yeah. We'll play after this, okay, girl? Yeah, we played a little bit before the live stream. So, but yeah, that's the thing, is people think that we're not, and yeah, it's kind of sucks. But Sam is awesome. Yes, she is. Yes, Sam is. Honestly, when Sam came into my life got much easier, because, and you can say what you want about it, but people, the people that are animal lovers, they, because of Sam, they know that I take good care of her. They take good care of me and her, because if I starve out there on trail, well, I can't take care of her, so they at least make sure I eat. The only people I don't like are the people that force me to feed Sam in front with and like, because like, you can't eat any of this. It's like, really? Really? I give my dog half my food to make sure she stays alive, and she, if I want a bite of her sandwich, I know she'll give it to me. She's not gonna get mad at me about it, because she eats half of my food. That's how I lost so much weight a couple years ago. So, talk to myself all the time, Tuck, but when you're solo, you don't see anyone for weeks at a time, you can lose your voice if you stay silent. Dogs will enhance your life, brother. Yes. Yes, because she brings good people into my life. She attracts good people. Most of the time. There are some assholes out there, but there's assholes everywhere. But another thing, if you're going to be a nomad, see, this is, okay, so those of you that are housies, you guys are so used to the white noise because you're so scared of your own thoughts. You couldn't sit in silence for 15 minutes and just let your mind go, so that you could find out what's really going on, because you'll learn a lot about yourself if you listen to your thoughts. Okay, I'm catching mosquitoes. You'll learn a lot about yourself if you listen to your thoughts. And when you're in the nomadic lifestyle, you can't keep the noise going all the time. You have to. I mean, yeah, you can read a book, but your thoughts are gonna be intrusive at that point in time. Part of the reason why I was able to stabilize myself is because I had the ability to sit back, listen to my thoughts, understand myself. And one of the greatest compliments I get from myself is that I'm very self-aware, and I know myself better than most people know themselves. So yeah, definitely got to know yourself. Yes, and that's what the nomad lifestyle will give you. That is the blessing. That honestly, the reason I like it the most is because Dude, I can get inside my thoughts when I'm going. Well, now that because of what happened a couple of weeks ago, I'm still angry, and so I'm trying to like get that out of my thoughts. But for the most part, I love going inside my own head and just listening to my thoughts because they're very interesting. And if I smoke weed, it helps me even better because man, my mind really wanders. I won't come out of it for days, but I'll come out of it more enlightened. I'll tell you that much. Um, but yeah, that's the basic. But anyways, so as I was saying, you can help out in multiple ways. You can either put me in contact with educators and policymakers and movers and shakers, or I think I might have to put my bug net up tonight. Um, Oh wow, yeah. Because I don't like, I don't. I've been bit by so many mosquitoes. I don't feel it anymore. I just like killing them because I think mosquitoes should be scourged off of this earth. We should absolutely eliminate them. Mosquitoes is why we say there's hell on earth. Okay, that's just my overall opinion. I hate mosquitoes. Okay. But the other ways you can help is you can come on over to Patreon if you want more behind the scenes or more of a participating role in this, not only in this walk, but in this method. And just I want to make sure people understand that when I get done with this walk, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop. What it means is I've hoped that I've gathered enough momentum that it puts me in front of the right people to be able to have the right conversations to move the needle in a positive direction. And it may lead to me getting housed eventually, and I may take it, or I may just be like, okay, I'm going to house myself for the winter, and during the summer, I'm just going to go out and hike trail and do whatever it is I want to do, or whatever it may be. Or I may just travel around hotel to hotel, car to car, whatever, so that I can keep that. So getting the lost in the flames. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. But yeah, you can come over to Patreon and help out that way. Or if you know people that are curious or you think might be misinformed about the homeless issue, this might be a great video to share with them. Be sure to share it with your friends and people that you think might benefit from understanding the difference in homelessness, because most people only know what they see on the news and what they hear. They don't really know the full story, and most people aren't that interested in it unless somebody approaches it with them and gives them a brief explanation. Okay, so those are the ways in which you can help if you'd like to help. Otherwise, thank you guys for being here, and I will see you tomorrow morning, but it will be when I'm on the road, so we're going to be doing a walk and talk. Okay, guys? Thanks for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night, Tuck. See you next